Hello, this is Michelle Conway. She is with Smart Technologies, and she's going to blow your world. I love the background very well, by the way, your thing there for spells for student engagement. Thank you for embracing our theme as always. But I'm going to turn it over to Michelle. Make sure you join her Lumio so you can see how interactive it is.
Awesome. Thanks, Carrie.
I expect a few more people to jump in.
Okay, no worries. Alrighty, so today is all about majority of it is about Lumio, but we are going to be talking a little bit about like how you would bring it up on different types of smart boards because it's very simple. It's going to be universal for most smart boards. So I'm going to just kick things off and just dive on in. I do have a lot of interactivity. So if you do see that link in the chat, you can just click on that link and that will bring you into my lesson as a student. So you can just say join as a guest and you can get right on in to my lesson. You can also follow these instructions. Hellosmart.com, join as a guest, and then put in my class code 246157. Both ways, the link or just manually doing it is a very similar process. If you ever want to get a device or two, depending on how many devices you even have in the classroom, connect it to your lesson. So it could be a center of iPads or a center of Chromebooks or whatever it may be, a small group of those things, that works too. If you do have the ability to have multiple devices in your classroom, a full class can join just like all of you are doing. There is no limit I've hit before. So if you ever have to do a PD with a bunch of staff and you have over 100 staff members and you want to use Lumio, you can hold that amount of people into a lesson. Before I kick things off, I do want to just quickly introduce myself. My name is Michelle Conway Gray. I am the PD specialist for Smart and Lumio here on the East Coast region of North America. I am based out of New Jersey, but I've done some teaching and instructional coaching all over the East Coast. So I was a math teacher in the middle grades area in Charleston, South Carolina for several years. And then I was also an instructional technology coach in the school district of Philadelphia. So I've kind of been all over the place. If you ever have any questions about your smart boards, Lumio, I know a few of you were in my last session about Smart Inc. You are more than welcome to email me at any time. So that email, michelleconway@smarttech.com, is open to all educators that I work with. I also love connecting with people on social as well. I think I saw someone in here who is a good example of this, maybe Sheila, or I think she popped in here real quick. But if you're ever, doing Lumio in your class or even using the Smartboard and you like to post about teaching on your Twitter or Instagram, I love connecting with people there, reposting. I love sending swag out to people that I see posting about our products on social media. Yep, I thought it was you, Sheila. So I love just finding out new ways as well. So I have some information about that towards the end of today's session, but let's kick things off. So like I said, most of this is all about Lumio, but I do quickly want to talk a little bit about how you would use it on different types of smart boards. So I'm actually going to switch my camera real fast here, and I am going to hop over to my smart board. But before we do, just real quick, what are we going to cover today? I'm just going to talk a little bit about how you can connect your students into your lessons, how can you personalize your lessons using Lumio, but also how you can use it for collaboration in your classroom, even if you don't have devices in your classroom. So I'm going to switch my camera real fast just to talk to the smartboard a little bit because everyone has a little bit of a unique experience when it comes to their smartboards. You guys have a few different models in Anne Arundel, so I do want to just top up to those that have smartboards. Some of you have really old smartboards, which we're going to talk about as well, but just to kind of hit everyone here, those that have these like flat panels, we call it. So you have a GX board, you might have a 6000 board, whatever it may be. You all have an app that is some sort of browser app on your smartboard. So it kind of usually looks like a Chrome icon. So I can always just open up that browser. And because Lumio is a web-based platform, all you would have to do is just search golumio.com or whatever. You can type in Lumio if you wanted to, but golumio.com usually will get you there. Also, those that have like maybe an old projector board, I like to call them, you could just use your second device, plug in, and just mirror your computer screen to the smartboard, and then you're good to go. So let's talk a little bit about that once you open up golumio.com. So I'm going to come back over to my computer real fast, and I'm going to show you real fast what it would look like if I wanted to just start my lesson. But is there any questions about how you would even start using Lumio on a smartboard? All right, cool. So I'm going to just hop out of here real fast and then hop back in. And once I go to golumio.com, imagine if I'm on my smartboard, or maybe I'm just sharing my computer screen to the smartboard. These would be all of my lessons, and we're going to get more into the teacher side after we do a little walkthrough. But once I'm ready to go, I would just hit start. Okay, so we'll get into all of the ins and outs of Lumio when we get into that teacher side. But just real quick, one more time, when I want to start presenting my lesson to my class, you would just either find your browser on your smartboard, or you could always open up, I think, your teacher apps. You can always just go to Google Drive and open up Lumio, but you can, it's a web-based platform. So any website you typically would use with your smartboard, you can also use Lumio. All right, so I'm going to hit start here, and we'll get all into the teacher side throughout today's session. But let's just do a little walkthrough for those that are not familiar with Lumio. Let's look at what it would look like from the student side, just so you can kind of practice in there and see it and see what it can do. And then we'll get into teaching the teacher side and all that, like how do I build, how do I do all the things. So let's dive in here. So real fast, like what can you do with Lumio? So Lumio, like I mentioned before and a few times already, it's a web-based platform. So you just need to type in golumio.com, or Carrie put another strategy. You can go through Google Drive as well. But a couple things, you can use what you already have. A lot of us have good Google Slides. We have PDFs. You can also get it in ClassLink. Thanks, Zara. So there's a million ways that you can get into Lumio in Anne Arundel. But one of my favorite ways recently is I would say in the last year and a half, I've become like huge with Canva. I love making things in Canva and then bringing them into Lumio for interactive spaces. But I can repurpose pretty much anything that I have already saved on my computer. Also, some things that we're going to look at today is, as a new user, it's super simple to start with the games. And I know there's going to be a few in here as well that have used Lumio before. So put your thoughts as well. Adobe Express, perfect. So you can use Adobe Express by downloading it as a PDF and then bringing it into Lumio. So you do have some options there. But games are the easiest way to start with Lumio, and your students love the game. So we're going to look at how to make a game as well today. Also, we'll look a little bit at different options in terms of maybe an immersive reader. Maybe you need a reading tool for your students. We'll look at that immersive reader tool as well. And then I'll sprinkle in a few other things throughout today's session. But I just want to keep it pretty simple for today, especially if you're a new user to Lumio. But let's dive into some examples, shall we? So first things first, I just want to get a general feel of the room. Where are we with Lumio? And I know a few of you have already put in the chat, I'm new to it. I am one. So this witch is actually infinitely cloned. So I'm going to have you drag where you feel you are on your Lumio journey. And I love that people are putting it in the chat as well, but I do want to show you something that's fun. Students can come up right to my smartboard and drag that witch to where they feel they are on their Lumio journey. But because you guys are all virtual, I do want to just show you some things as well. So I'm going to go to my classroom management tab this time, and all of you, you should be in Lumio in your Chrome browser as well. And I'm going to change this into a whole class whiteboard. I do have some other options, which we'll look at throughout today's session, but this time I'm going to choose a whole class. I want you all on one page with me. I'm not opening you up to my entire slide documentation. I am just opening up this slide to all of you. So I'm going to turn it into a whole class whiteboard. And now you all should be able to interact with that page by dragging that witch to where you feel you are on your Lumio journey. And I see some people are playing with their pen tool. I love it. And I can actually see who put what on the page. So I see Zara's exploring my pen tools and she quickly erased it. But I can see who put what and where. Like I said, this is not necessary. I could use this as just a check-in as my kids are coming into class, and they can drag the witch to where they feel they're on their fractions journey or wherever it may be. And I made this aesthetic looking slide in Canva, but imagine I did it in Adobe Express. And all I did was bring it into Lumio and add that witch, infinitely cloned witch. I'm sticking to a spooky theme, and you'll see throughout today's session that I am, but I can also turn off editing access as well here. So I might notice, like I taught 7th grade, I can imagine they'll get witch happy here and just take a bunch of witches out here. So I can turn off editing at any time in the top right corner. All right, so, okay, cool. We're all over the place, which I figured we would be. You've had Lumio for a while now, so I'm sure some people have explored it, some haven't. My goal is just to push you down this road a little bit further after today. Alrighty, so I have a couple examples. So this first one is a game. I do want to explore games. Like I told you, it's one of the easiest ways to start in Lumio. And if you haven't used the games before, you're going to probably want to add it to some parts of your lesson. If you've used the games before, maybe you haven't realized that you can customize them. You don't have to use the templates that are in Lumio. You can customize this. So this is a Halloween theme. So let's go in here. This is called hit start on your side and play. So I'll let you explore that real fast. I think it says start or play, whatever the words may be. I, as the teacher, have two options. I have an open dashboard, and I also can model the activity. If I don't have kids connected with devices and I'm just doing this as a whole class together, I'm just going to choose the model activity option, and then we can just play together as a class. I'll move this over to trick or treat, depending on what the answer may be, and we can work on it together as a class. Again, this could also be a center. Maybe I have them have whiteboards in front of them and they're solving the decimal into a fraction, and they're converting them and trying to figure out, are they trick or are they treat? Same thing. I know that you guys are all in with devices, so I can say view progress as a teacher, and I can see in real time my numbers changing. So I can actually see a little bit of data here as a teacher as well. It's okay. Trick is tricking you. Treat is giving you a little treat. No worries. I'm not judging you. I'm not also grading this. So you're all good there. From here, I see that my numbers are changing. I see that 23 have completed, 10 are in progress, and you actually can play as many times as you want technically, but I am only getting data off your first attempt. I can hit show results here, and I can actually get a little bit more in the weeds with my data, if you will. So I can see my average. I can see the time on task that it took my students. I love this one over here, my 5 most frequently incorrect and correct answers. For me, this might be helpful for like, maybe I'm noticing a pattern in the incorrect and I just need to go back and review this with my students, or maybe I just pull these out or I add these to my review, or maybe if this is I'm doing group work, maybe I add these back into the worksheet and take these away. But this is really telling for me as a teacher. I can also even drill down to student progress as well. So I can click on student progress. It is going to blur it out, assuming that you could be on a smartboard or wherever it may be. But I'm going to hit show student progress. And right here, I can see all of my students that have hit start. I can even see like Sheila, she could have stepped away and went to the nurse. She's idle right now. So I know who is doing what at any given time. Maybe I jump into Michelle's because we spell our name the same way. And from here, I can definitely see like every single answer she got incorrect or correct, and she crushed this. I can even see how long it took her. So if it to me, it might be saying she rushed through it. Maybe I give her another chance to do it. All righty, so that is games. There's 12 different games that you can choose from: matching, sorting, ranking, and we'll definitely build one to get together today. Let me just double check time. I always forget these little short sessions. This one goes till 3:10. Beautiful. Another way that you might use Lumio is with manipulatives, graphic organizers. We have ready-made resources ready to go for students. So this one, I just added a little bit of, tailoring or editing. So realistically, the shapes were ready to go for me. So these are all ready to go. So again, and I have students coming up to the board, but because you are on devices, I want to show you another strategy. But real quick before we do, I just want to talk about your student toolbar real fast before I send this out to you guys individually. So this is just a quick build a jack-o'-lantern. We're really focusing on our shapes, things like that in this activity. Maybe I'm just introducing shapes to my students. But with that being said, these are infinitely cloned, ready to go, kind of like that which was for that whole class whiteboard. I have some questions over here that I typed out. And again, all I did was these directions. I did bring the pumpkin in as well, but everything else was ready for me. You have a student toolbar to the side here. It's very similar to my teacher toolbar. I think they're pretty much identical, other than I have maybe a restart here. But I have a pen tool. If my students want to use different pens, they can use the pen tool. I saw a few of you exploring that. But what I really want to point out here on this one is this gallery tool. So it's the heart, plus sign, image tool. If I click on that, there is a feature that just came out, but you'll notice that you have all different features in here. You have stickers. So maybe someone wants to add a sticker to their jack-o'-lantern, go for it today. But one I do want to point out and feature that just came out maybe a few months ago is this little microphone right here. So your students at any time during a lesson can add a recording to the page. So for this one, I actually wanted them to give me a little inspiration behind their jack-o'-lantern in their own words. So students can record themselves and insert the recording right from here. You actually can upload as well. If they did use a different software to record themselves, they can do that as well. All right, so this time I do want you guys to explore this a little bit. So I'm going to shoot this out as an individual handout this time. So now each of you get your own copy of this slide instead of all of us being on one page. Very similar to like games, I can hop into people's worksheets and see them working in real time. So I see Sheila, cute, cute, cute. I can also, let's see here. Let's go into, and maybe that's just my Wi-Fi. So let me go back into Sheila's real quick here. Yep, 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 yep. There we go. Great question. Okay, I just looking at the chat here. So unfortunately, it is not something that you can turn off, but we do. I can show you where you can request for a feature. So I have Sheila's open here. I can also give her feedback right from here. So I can say, great job, Sheila, A+ for you. So I can actually give students feedback in real time from my device. I also, if they hit done on the top right corner, I will see little check marks next to the students' names. Back to Caitlin real quick. I will show you where you can request different features in the Lumio on the Lumio teacher side. All right, so there I see all of you are saying done. So I can hop into Melissa's if I wanted to. Wow, look at Melissa's. And I can give her again an A+ for Melissa. All righty, I'm going to go to my next page. And this one, again, is just a quick little slide I made in Google Slides. I brought it in as editable, but now all I wanted to really do was add this infinitely cloned shape so they can drag it to the verb. But I did want to highlight a really special tool that I think is really helpful, which is called Immersive Reader. So for this activity, maybe I have them use that Immersive Reader tool, and then they go and find the verb in the sentence. So how Immersive Reader works is all of you have this book icon in the toolbar, student toolbar, and I also have it as a teacher. Of course, I would want to shoot this out as an individual handout so you guys can interact with this, but just to model it for all of you, this book icon will highlight all the editable text on the page. And maybe I want it to read this first sentence. So I'm just going to click on it. And what's going to happen is just going to open up the Immersive Reader tool, and I can play it. I don't know if I'm playing my sound, so you probably didn't hear it, but I would hear it on my end. I also have different tools that are super helpful depending on the user in your classroom. So I have these tools on the top right corner, and then I have a tool down here. So the voice settings helps with the voice speed. Maybe I want to slow it up, slow it down. I also have some tools again over here. So text preferences is really helpful. Maybe I have some visual impairment. I need to make the text a little bigger. Same thing. Maybe I need a dark background for that student. Same thing. There's some fun tools in the middle here where they can break up the syllables if they wanted to. Obviously, for this one, they're looking for the verb, so they could, in theory, turn on this one to go find the verb if they wanted to. But right here, I also have reading preferences, and this one is a big one for me. So if I go into reading preferences, I can actually do line focus if I need to. The picture dictionary is super helpful because they can click on house, see pictures of house, and hear how house sounds. They also can translate this document or these words right from here. So if I choose, let's say I have a Spanish speaking student, I can choose one of the Spanish options and turn on this document. And now this is in Spanish, and I didn't have to make a bunch of copies. I have it ready to go right from here. I have original Spanish, original Spanish. So this Immersive Reader tool could be very helpful for some students in your classroom. Anyone have any thoughts that they might use Immersive Reader for? Pop it in the chat. But once they hear it, they can click out of it and they can drag where they feel all of the verbs are.
Michelle, not to interrupt you here, but just to point out what you mentioned earlier today about using CKLA within Lumio. And so, Angela, what you can do is you can bring those slides in. I see Angela's question there from CKLA, and your students can actually interact with those individually rather than, of course, my phone starts ringing now, and can be able to use them on their screen. So they also can see it on their individual Chromebooks if they are logged in. So it's going to be closer to them. And you're going to have that accessibility feature of Immersive Reader, particularly if you're doing something with looking for the verbs that they wouldn't otherwise get in those CKLA slides. And you just have more functionality in terms of the way that they can respond and the way that they can answer those questions. And you can see what they're doing pretty quickly. Keep in mind that with the Amplify site, you can really only type and draw, and you're also going to have those pages. I've seen them on the Chromebooks, but then they're just those PDFs. And so it's very, very small and for student screens. So bringing it into Lumio is going to make it a little bit larger for them and be able to view it on that screen much larger than what they can within that Amplify, because they don't have as much of the sides taken up by just being within Amplify and then the built-in applications that they have in there. And I have examples if anyone wants to see. I have actually done CKLA lessons for the whole first quarter, where I took some slides and things like that and tried this out. So I have examples that I can share.
Awesome. Yeah, I think CKLA has some really great resources. Amazing. So let's dive into this last example that for me is a very big time saver as a teacher. But again, a lot of teachers use PDFs. They use some sort of worksheet in their classroom. This one, I'm thinking of like my kindergarten teachers or first grade teachers. There's a lot of like sometimes you do some cutting activities like drag and drop, and they cut it out and they paste it on. And so now you're handing out the worksheets, the scissors, the glue. And I think that's still important for them for the fine motor to practice cutting, but not every single time. So this one, again, I just broke. When I was able to import when I was editing this lesson. And from there, I just usually in the bottom, there was this like cutting activity. I just blocked it with a white square. And then now the students are just going to use the infinite cloner feature to decide what the next shape is in the pattern. So it just saves me a little bit more time than passing it all out. I'm still going to do that when I want to, but now I have that second option. And again, maybe I use this as a whole class worksheet, or I just, again, might pop this out as a individual handout and let my kids interact with this PDF. When I taught in 7th grade, in Charleston, I know this isn't the case everywhere, but I did have to buy my own paper after a certain amount of paper they gave you. So this just saved me a lot of time at the copier or printer or things like that when I can just use something like Lumio to bring in my PDFs and make it really easy for my kids to interact with that PDF. As Carrie was just saying, I do have a student toolbar as well here. So they, again, still have my pen tool, their text tool, their gallery tool. They even have an equation editor for my chemistry and science and math teachers. This equation editor is super helpful as well. The other Mrs. Gray, I just got married 1 year ago yesterday, and technically my new last name is Gray, and I got to change that eventually. But how I did this, I just took a screenshot of the picture of, let's say, the ghost, and I just every single one of them, once I was editing, has a drop down menu like this, and I just infinitely cloned it. And now it is ready to go. So with that being said, you guys have a couple amazing questions here. And I think it's going to work out perfectly for us to switch over to the teacher side so you can start making some magic in Lumio. So what we're going to do here is actually I'm going to have you leave my classroom. So I'm going to actually model this so you can see exactly what I do from here, just to save you some time and you don't get lost. And let me just bring it into, I forgot I am sharing just my window, but for that case, I'm just going to have you go to your little people tab or your 3 lines at the top right corner. And that is going to allow you to say leave class. Okay, so you're going to say leave class. So go to the 3 lines at the top right corner and say leave class. What that's going to start allowing you to do is get into that teacher side. So for the most part, I would just say like completely get out of that tab altogether and just open up a brand new tab. So one more time. For those that are still lingering, you want to go to the 3 lines and say leave class, Completely get out of that tab and open up a new Google tab. You have a couple options from here, and I think Carrie kind of already touched on this real fast, but you have a few options to get into Lumio. Class length. The top corner where you can say teach. The other special way that you can go through is just through Drive. So if I open up Drive, you can actually get into Lumio this way as well by going to New, More, Lumio. One more time. New, More, Lumio. Yeah, Carrie, I feel the same way, but there is personal preferences. Some people are like, not for me to go through Drive every single time. So just wanted to show some options. And then also in the little waffle, if you scroll all the way down, Lumio might be a little firefly in the waffle, I call it. So a lot of options to get in. You know you are successful when, I'm going to just get these people, because these people might have some issues getting into the teacher side. Actually, I'll let you just linger in there if you want to. You are good to go when you are on your homepage. It says your name. My class ID is always 246157, which I can find in the banner on the right-hand side. You should have a different code. If you got into your homepage, put your favorite Halloween candy in the chat. Okay. If you have successfully gotten to your Lumio homepage, put your favorite Halloween candy in the chat. There's only a few people that are speaking my language, and it's the Reese's crew. My death row meal will always be chocolate and peanut butter and the combination between the two. I've actually bought Reese molds from Amazon, and I've been making my own Reese's at home. My new folks that are new to Lumio, let me know if you're having any issues getting into Lumio since this is going to be your first time. Of course, we're going to use a rank order of how I make my Reese's at home. And remember, my email is michelleconway@smarttech.com. So if at this point on, if you have any questions and we run out of time, you are more than welcome to email me at any time. All right. Oh, go ahead, Carrie.
You've still got 20 minutes, so you're good.
Beautiful. For those that are like, you know what, I'm better just watching and then coming back to a recording and going back over, that is awesome too. That is always a good step as well. Kathy, is Lumio associated with Smart? Yes. So Smart has multiple products under their umbrella, if you will. So they have hardware, which is Smart boards, all the things, right? So with that being said, they also have a software side. So years and years and years and years ago when Smart started, they always had something called Smart Notebook, which is still around and teachers still use Notebook. However, Notebook was something that was just a software on teachers' devices. And then let's say like the 2010s hit and the cloud-based world started, Google Classrooms of the world and things like that. And student devices start to get introduced in classrooms. So they wanted to get into the cloud-based, web-based world. So they created this product called Smart Learning Suite Online. It was a mouthful. So then they created this product called Lumio by Smart. And then with that being said, they just rebranded again and they dropped the by Smart because they want to make sure that people that maybe have Promethean boards or different types of brands don't think Lumio only works with smart boards. It actually works with any device that gets Wi-Fi. All right. So Kathy, that is a long-winded explanation of how Lumio is associated with smart. Hopefully that answered that question. And that gave some time for others to get in here. All right, so very good. This is my home page. These are all my recent files. You may not have as many files as I have. You may not have folders because you haven't started creating in here yet. So right here, I can build folders with the little folder icon, but that tutorial is for another day. You have your name up here, Michelle Conway. This is student facing. So if this is something you're like, hey, I don't want my kids to call me by my first name, right next to your little ID here, you have something that says edit class. Okay. I can rename myself. All right. So you can rename yourself to Mrs. Conway or Mrs. Gray or whatever you want it to be. Well, you wouldn't use my name. You would use your name. I work with adults, so I don't mind it saying Michelle Conway as my class name here. The other important thing that you want to identify over here is your link right here. So if you have some options for how student devices could come into your lesson. So the first one is this session link where I can copy this and I could put this in, say, one of my LMS platforms that I use, like Canvas. I could have this as a resource that the students just click and write on in my lesson. Sometimes, especially for my little ones, typing hellosmart.com when they don't even know their letters yet could be very difficult. So clicking that link could be super helpful. Same thing with the QR code. If there is an iPad somewhere in the classroom, scanning an iPad or QR code is super helpful as well. I'm going to talk a little bit about this middle tab, which is called guest access. So guest access allows folks just to come in as a guest like you guys did. Typically with students, we actually want to turn this off and say, I want you to come in with your credentials. One, I want to know who is contributing to my page. If you say guest can come in as a guest, so swipe this back on, they can name themselves anything. I love dogs 24, and you're like, I don't know who that student is. So totally up to you if you want to keep this on and off. I find the guest access being off as a teacher is going to be the best experience for you. However, some of you might be coaches as well to teachers, and you are going to turn around a PD with teachers. Teachers have a different account than students do. Students don't even have accounts in Lumio. That's not the Lumio isn't a student web or software. It says teacher software. Technically, students come in to my lessons, but when I work with teachers, I actually want them to come in as a guest. So if there's anyone in the class today that do need teachers or work with teachers, keep that on. Students, turn it off. However, my pre-K, even my kindergarten teachers, that might be something that after they kind of learn their email address and things like that, could be helpful to keep on. Okay, one more thing in edit class that I want to talk about is immersive reader. If that's something that you were interested in having turned on for your students, you want to make sure that's swiped on. Sometimes I work with some Spanish teachers, world language teachers, and they're like, I don't want them to be able to translate the text on the page. You have that choice to turn that off, okay? If it's gray already, that means it's off. If it's green, it's on. All right, One more thing before we get into building. You don't always have to recreate the wheel in Lumio. So you don't always have to bring your own things in there to make it interactive. You actually have a whole library called the Lumio library. In here, this is where you might get some inspiration. You might find some things that you like that you want to change up a little bit. This is where I found something that we did today. Oh, the jack-o'-lantern activity. I actually typed in, I went to the Halloween category. Next to me, like, Mom, I need to go out. But if you see a little tail, I did not just grow a tail out of nowhere. It is my four-legged Riggins, who comes into all my sessions. But from here, this is where I found that little jack-o'-lantern activity. If I like it, I can save it. You can see that I did edit it a little bit, but it came pretty ready to go, honestly. So I would just let that load up. Come on, Wi-Fi. There we go. And I could say, okay, this looks good. You notice that on mine, I just added some questions over here, and I added the little pumpkin, but for the most part, it was ready to go. So I just said save to my library. What happens from there is that it just comes over here under my library. So let's build like 2 activities together, and then we'll wrap up with some resources. So right under your name is the word new. So when you're ready to start a new lesson, you can just hit new, and let's all build a little game together, okay? But this window is always what's going to pop up when you want to add something new to Lumio. What I really like about Lumio is these little graduation caps, especially for my new users. These little graduation caps are little short clips of what this tool is and how it works. So even if you're like, hey, what can I import? You can click on that little graduation cap and it tells you how it works. So if you're like, hey, I kind of want to import a PDF from CKLA, or I want to upload a PDF or a Google slide, you have some options here when you choose import. Okay. If that jack-o'-lantern is something that I just saved from Lumio library, it would be here under my library because I just saved it there. All right. So you can import, which is really nice. So let's build that game together. So it's called a game-based activity. So we're going to click on game-based. And I am just going to do a quick little super sort. And while you guys open that up, I will let this little four-legged dog go outside real fast. He was not going to stop bothering me if I did not let him do that. And I'm going to build the one, just an example, but you are more than welcome to build something that makes sense for your class. So I'm going to do trick, and we're going to call this other one treat. Those are the categories. The ones that are spelled wrong. So I'm going to do a bunch of nonsense words. Like that. But this is hat. This is going to be cat. Rat. What? This one's going to say hut. Ret instead of rat. Wet. And this one is going to be wig instead of wig. Okay. You'll notice here I can do text or I can do images. So that's how I was able to bring in those screenshots of that math problem. I just did that ahead of time. I had a worksheet where I just screenshotted them. So I would just upload the screenshot if I needed to, which I can. But I'm just going to keep it simple with just some text today. And from there, I am just going to hit next. And right from there, I have some fun themes that I can choose from. So you do have themes ready to go. The students really like the ones that are a little bit more interactive in a sense. So I did a custom one with the pumpkins, but just due to time, we're just going to choose one of these ready to go themes. They love the pirates one, and you'll see why. So I'll click on the pirates, and I've done this with seniors. So before you're like, oh, I'm a high school teacher, trust me, any game type activity, they'll like it. I hit finish, and that game is starting to create itself. It's also saving, as you notice, on the back end in my Google Drive. And right from there, it's telling me that this is ready to go. So I can hit preview just to see if it looks good. And there it is. One side is trick, one side is treat. What's really cool is if they get it right, they shoot over to the other side. There's me. I want it to. Same thing. If this is wrong, it will pop it. Oh, no, that was right. Sorry. This is right. It will pop it back over. So they love the interactive piece of this. So again, I could do this right up on my smart display. And this is playing with my students, or they could also just play on their devices. So that game is ready to go. I'm going to call this the nonsense word, so I remember what this is. Yeah, so imagine if I added my slides to Carrie's point, kind of how I did on the last one. I could add all my slides, but maybe pop in a game in between my slides, pop something else in between my slides, just so I keep their attention throughout my Google slide lesson, which I was going to teach from anyway. So anyway, let's do one more. I'm going to go to that blue plus sign again. And this time I am going to import something. So I'm going to import. It should save in a folder called Lumio in your drive. So it should activate a folder that's called Lumio right here. And then you can like organize it the way you want. So I'm going to import something from my computer that I downloaded actually. You would have seen that one already. Let me try that again. Downloads. Try that again. I think it's only a one pager. Oh, it's okay. Try a different one. Oh, I picked the wrong thing. I went to. Sorry. A little bit. 5-minute warning. Got it. Yes, Carrie, to your point, sorry, I was just having a little Wi-Fi issue and I saw that your response popped up. Yeah, so if I started in a specific folder and then said new, more Lumio, it would save right in that folder, which if you're an organized person, a great way to start. But I sometimes am not as organized as I should be. But say I wanted this to be a little interactive for my students. Typically, I would just have them literally check if it is a triangle or not. But maybe I want to add a check mark for them. So I can go to the little gallery tool. I love this toolbar because it's the same as the one from the student side and on the teacher side. So you saw it before. And I am just going to bring in this sticker of this checkpoint. And I'll just make it a little smaller so it can fit right there perfectly. And this time, I'm just going to turn it into an infinite cloned object. So that is ready to go. So that's how I added the witch to that one page. That's how I did the worksheet before. Instead of a sticker, I just brought in a picture and just brought in that screenshot of that little the worksheet before, and that's how I made that infinitely cloned object on a PDF. From there, I can also just turn it into an individual handout if I'm ready to go in that case. But you saw that I was also doing that live in real time during the live lesson. So I could do it before, I can do it in real time. It's just whatever you want it to be. So that magic wand is where the magic happens, is kind of what I say. Other than that, it's going to be a view only page if I don't change it. Last step is just to give yourself a little title. We're just going to call this ACPS practice because we just were practicing today. And then, yeah, so once I hit finish, full circle moment here. If I'm ready to go with my smartboard, you would just go to your browser on your smartboard and open up the website, go lumio.com and start, and it would bring up this homepage for you. For those that don't have a smartboard, maybe you just plug in your computer to the smart projector or whatever you may have. And same thing, go to the website, go lumio.com or open it up the way that I showed you. When you're ready to go, this lesson is the one we just did together, and I can hit start and I can start the lesson, or I can even assign it to my students as an individual activity on Canvas or whatever I use as my LMS. So I can copy this link and my students can just do this independently as well. All righty, so we're just going to wrap up with some resources. One more thing I do want to show you is you have 3 dots, and in the 3 dots, you can duplicate a lesson if you want to do this multiple times with multiple class periods. But also I have a share link. So if me and Carrie, we teach together, and I'm like, hey girl, I just made a quick little lesson, I think you would like it, I can give her this teacher share link, which gives her her own copy of this lesson. And there's that student link again. All right, so let's hop into the file real quick and see what do you have accessible to you, which is a lot, honestly, from our end. So I'm going to just drop this in the chat so you have these resources. On this page, you have all of our smart boards that you could have in your schools, and there's little images if you aren't aware of which one you have. GX is where most of you might be, so this column is all for you. And then also here's all the Lumio resources. I highly recommend the Facebook group. That one is a good one for new users and just users in general. There's always stuff happening in the Facebook group, but we also have an ambassador platform, which also has a lot of good resources for you. So if you're not an ambassador already and you're like, hey, but I'm new, no worries. Just click on this application and then it will bring you into the application. You guys just made a lesson with me. So you can submit an example of how you use Lumio right today by just clicking on that share link and getting that teacher link again. Just popping that right in this application. Real quick, let's go down to the resources so we can talk to them. If you have some time, I know we have about a minute, pop in what your favorite spell or maybe your favorite feature you saw today in Lumio. Just a couple of things to keep aware of. We have a Lumio challenge every month. So this month we have about 8 more days to get involved, 9 more days. How do you use Lumio for hands-on learning? Very simple to kind of get involved in it. You just have to share to social. How do you use Lumio? I'm always stalking that Lumio hashtag on Twitter as well as other places. You get entered for a chance to win a prize every month. Next month changes a little bit, but you have about 9 more days to get involved in this one. You can even take a picture of what you created today. Ambassador platform, that is a one-stop shop for you. It has all of our events linked. Anything you need is linked in that ambassador platform. You can gain badges. You can come to our events. We have a fun event coming up in the ambassador platform called the Jingle and Mingle. We're having a holiday party. We also have a really fun ambassador challenge going on. So all of that is in that ambassador platform. And you just make sure you are applying to become one. And that is right here on that one-stop doc I just put in the chat. And I know I have about a minute, so we just launched our certified trainer course. This is awesome for those that are feeling pretty confident with Lumio. We just launched that. That is linked on that one-stop doc as well. As I mentioned before, and Sheila, I can't believe you're here. I actually screenshotted Sheila's. I'm always stalking people's posts, like I said, and I actually love to share and send out swag for those that are posting a lot on social. So I love stalking my East Coast teachers on social. That goes for the smart boards too. And then finally, some things that you have available to you is our webinars. We are constantly doing webinars, so definitely register for them. Even if you can't come, you get the recording. We have a self-paced academy. And all of that can just be really found right here on the top right corner of the page. So you don't even have to have that one-stop doc. You can request features from this corner here. You can say join our communities from up here, and this little graduation cat will pop you out to the academy. With that being said, I'm pretty much done. I will hang out if people have questions, but I know it is a minute over, so you're probably filling out that attendance form maybe. But thank you all for joining me, and hopefully you learned a little bit about Lumio today. But again, I will hang out if you have any questions. But yeah, can't wait to see how you're using Lumio and your smart boards in your classroom. And any of my new users, don't email me at any time. I'm happy to build a lesson with you, whatever it may be. Yes. So Natalie, back to your point. So Natalie, tell me a little bit about what board you have. Talk to me. Just tell me a little bit about your setup.
When I was just on the Lumio site, and when I clicked for it to start, it had only just said to either have students log in, so I didn't know how to just have it so that they could interact with the board.
This pops up?
Yes.
So let's just say I'm not going to do devices. I am just going to have my students come with X here. You're just running with 0 students in the lesson, but let's just say we want to go and do this game together. I would just go to this slide and say model activity instead of them hitting start from their devices. I am kind of just going through the slides like I would on a Google slide or any other slide presentation. My students are just with me at carpet time, or they're at their desk, wherever it may be. Okay. What kind of board you have, Natalie? The one behind me or different than mine?
It's one that has the markers attached at the bottom.
Okay. Yeah. So you'll just plug in your computer, you'll go to the website, and you'll just hit start. And then even if students don't have devices in the classroom, you can just run it like it's a whole class lesson.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Sorry, do you have a question? I saw you like, I think you went back on mute. No.
No questions. I was like double attending and playing with robots and playing with Lumio all at
I
once.
love it. Love it. I could never, my brain would not allow me to multitask.
So I'm just going to confuse them so they don't have to figure out why the attendant shows me twice. I was actually on 2 different computers.
No worries. No worries. Any other questions?
Yeah, I've been favoring Lumio because I'm a math teacher and it had a lot of the equation stuff.
Yeah,
I need Lumio to get with what Desmos and Nearpod lets me do. I made the suggestion already in the little question mark.
Yep. What
That
is
I
the
want to be able to
exponent?
limit my kids to these slides.
Yeah. I'm with you. That feature I am extremely excited for when it does get released. I even want to differentiate if I can a little bit, kind of what you're, to your point, I want to be able to just say, you can only come into these slides, or I want to just say like, so-and-so go into the slides, so-and-so
Yeah,
go into
well,
this.
yeah, it's either what I want. I want to be able to make a class up front so
So
that I
this
can
is
pre-make
going to,
groups.
so something on the roadmap to be excited for is classroom workflows. So this could be an iteration in class. Technically, students are just joining you, right? But when you have classroom workflows, you'll be able to say like period 5, and then the kids can come in, and I'm hoping that will give you a little bit more management with this classroom
Well,
workflows.
because my hope is that like what I really want to be able to do is make their groups ahead of time and have them stay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So if I make their groups once in a session, leave it alone and stop re-randomizing every time we play a new game or a new activity.
No, absolutely.
Because the
Absolutely.
amount of time to drag. I mean, thankfully I'm high school now, so they just sort of sit and stare at me. But in middle school, that was like,
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you.
that was downtime, and
Yeah.
we don't talk about downtime.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. All
So yeah,
right.
there's a lot of little things. I mean, honestly, I was excited when they gave me folders, except they won't let me bulk choose things so I can sort them faster.
I think that's also something that I've seen them have on the roadmap as well. But I think the thing
They're
with
all my first
Lumio,
world problems. Just so you
yeah,
know, like, I
yeah.
understand how privileged we are with this. And it's like the most first world problem that it doesn't.
Which is
even
also
work.
like you guys do have multiple different tools at the ready, so you can always just like use Nearpod when it makes sense, use Lumio when it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just so funny that like, you know, Lumio, I loved it, except that I couldn't sort. When I learned that I could put things into Google Drive and then right click and open with Lumio and it would make it right in that folder.
Yeah.
That was a game changer when that started, because at least then I could find the thing again.
Yeah, absolutely. All righty.
But
Well,
don't worry, I recognize when my things are like, this is the most minor inconvenience for something that otherwise works great. Just know that I know that.
it's all good. It's all good. All right. Well, with that being said, I will hop out of here and hopefully see you all soon.
Yep. I'm going to hop into this last session.
Bye. Able to go in and see who's